All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third session of our Youth Empowerment series. My name is Cynthia, and I'm joined here with Rijin and Hunyah. We will be your hosts for today and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Our other co-host, Jessenia, is unable to join us today, but she'll be back next week. We're also joined with a special guest this session, my friend and fellow graphic designer, Ling. Welcome. We'd love to have your input and thoughts on digital design, so thank you for coming on our live stream. For everyone who joined us last week, thank you so much for attending. We loved your questions and comments, so keep them coming. For those who have missed our last session, the recording for that is posted on our YouTube channel, so please be sure to follow us there as well as our social media to stay up to date. Moving on to today's topic, we will be covering the basics of digital design and how that ties in with marketing. For those who are interested in creating designs for yourself or to promote your business, this will definitely be a great session for you. So first off, I like to give a bit of a background about myself. So I'm a graphic designer with a diploma in digital design and development. I currently work with U4Change and do a bit of freelancing on the side. So if you'd like to check out some of my work, feel free to visit my website and Instagram at cynthiafang.ca. This session, we will be going over the basics of design, tools and resources, digital marketing, and how to start your career in design. So first off, I want to know what everyone thinks about what the difference is between art and design.
Well, for me, I guess one of the main differences is really the intent behind each of them, like what each really means and what their purpose is. So I know that for art, I guess it's not there are not that many guidelines, I would say, but for design, there's specific purpose it's meant for. And with art, I guess for me, it's like one's imagination basically. So it depends on how you're able to convey your ideas, and it's pretty neutral in the sense that it's not biased towards anything. So it's not limited. Whereas design is, I would say, it's very creative and it has it serves a purpose. Like I said, right? It conveys a certain message.
Exactly, and that's a great answer. So yeah, basically the difference is the whole intent behind that creation. So art is subjective and it has the goal of raising questions, and they want you to debate about what the meaning is behind that creation, and it doesn't necessarily need to have a standard rule. Whereas in design, there's a specific function for why you are making this design, and its goal is to create a solution to a problem. So there are certain guidelines that you need to follow in order to get your message across correctly. So what is graphic design? Graphic design is the process and art of combining text and graphics to communicate an effective message in the form of logos, graphics, brochures, posters, signs, and any other type of visual communication. And the job for a graphic designer is to plan, analyze, and to create visual solutions to convey a message to a particular audience. So there are 5 basic principles of graphic design. There's audience, layout, typography, image, and color. First off, you want to determine the audience, which is the group or target market of the population you're designing for. And there's factors that go into that, which is the age. So if you have younger or older readers, for example, they might require larger text. You want to think about their background. So is their profession going to be a factor? What are their skills and abilities? Are they tech savvy? And you want to also consider their cultural differences. Next, you want to have a layout set, which is the planned organization of text, colors, and images on a page or screen. So you want to think about the font size, color palettes, column widths, image types, and size. And you want to remember to be consistent and follow logic, clarity, and meaning, which should drive your design and not only what you think would look good. So typography is a design and use of typefaces as a means of visual communication. The 2 common types of fonts you may have heard of are serif and sans serif. Garamond is an example of a serif font where there are extending features and strokes, whereas a sans serif font such as Helvetica does not. Serif fonts are easier to read, so they're usually used in articles and books, and sans serif fonts are usually used for screens to give a more minimal and modern feel. And when you're working on typography, you want to limit the usage of the different type families in one project. So it's recommended that you limit it to 2 different fonts. You also want to make sure that you pay attention to the visual hierarchy so that the important information stands out. And you can create contrast with different weights of a font as well as changing the color. You may also want to adjust the kerning for text such as those used for logos to make it more visually appealing. So far, does everyone understand why it's important to follow these principles?
I have a question. Like, I know there's a sample of a sans serif and serif, right? Which one of these typography are those like in here? Like, I know there's one that says like universe and there's one that says like Baxterville. Like, which one are those from there?
So from the example, Garamond, Baskerville, Houdini, they're all serif fonts. So, it's often you could find them in magazines or newspaper articles. And the other 4 are sans serif. So you can find them on screens, web pages, stuff like that.
I also think that the serif versus sans serif kind of has a play towards branding as well. So I would say sans serif is more towards the tech type of brands and maybe something like Apple or technology based kind of those type of brands. But maybe for a serified font, it would usually go towards like a fashion or a luxury brand, I would say.
Yeah.
So it does help with branding as well.
Yes, those are good examples for that. Right. Yeah, so exactly. You want to make sure that everything is planned and strategized to ensure that the readers or the audience can be reached effectively. So for images, images are the illustrations or photographs that support and enhance the design to help the reader understand the content. So there are raster images, which are pixel-based, such as JPEGs or PNGs. So these images are made of tiny pixels. So if you run out of pixels, images will get blurry, and that occurs if you resize image too big, then the pixels won't have enough, there won't be enough pixels to fill the spaces, basically. And vector images are made of mathematical paths. They're versatile and can be changed and resized. So when we're talking about JPEGs, they are optimized for photographs and they're great on print. So if you need to print a poster, for example, you would use JPEGs. PNGs, they offer transparency and are usually used for logos, digital graphics, and so you would see them mostly used for screens. And SVGs, the images and text can be edited. So because it's a vector base, you can change the color and the sizing however you want, and it would not affect the quality of the image. So they're great for icons. So what do these colors mean? I'll have everyone guess, I guess, the emotions that these colors could convey or what they could represent.
I'll go. I think red would be like urgency or like something that's in a need. And then blue would be like something simple and something minimalistic. And purple would be like something that's like feminist or that has some kind of impact or something like a social cause.
Exactly. So anyone else want to answer what they think?
But yeah, for me as well, like I feel like red, it's a very perfect example for power, energy, passion, but at the same time, it's very contrasting because it's also used for war, blood. It's really, it has a lot of contrast and it's used for like different scenarios. So I guess it's a very, broad color and used for various messages and scenarios. So I guess red is a perfect color, for conveying all these emotions. But if you go to yellow, yellow would be like warmth and like it really shows that comfort that you have, right? And it shows, like, for example, if you use yellow for your work or website, the audience feels really happy when you're looking at that work because it's easy for them to look at it. And I feel like that's really one of the key things that I find when using red and yellow.
Exactly. And just a little bit more about colors, I guess. There is RGB and there's also CYMK, which stands for RGB is red, green, blue. CYMK is cyan, magenta, yellow, and key. So CYMK would be used for anything that you want to design for print, because print and the ink mix will come out differently compared to how it's shown on screen. So if you're designing for anything that's going to be shown digitally, that will be best if you use RGB colors. And yeah, so exactly. For red, it's a great example of how you could represent power, energy, passion, love, aggression, danger, hunger, and urgency. Yellow is great for representing positivity, hope, cheerful, attention, happiness, warmth. For blue, it's often used for trust, security, smart, clean, power, calm, peace, and confidence. And green often represents nature, health, luck, soothing, envy, eco-friendly, balance, and growth. And for purple, which is my favorite color personally, if you remember my logo from before, stands for creativity, mystery, royalty, sophistication, spirituality, and wisdom. So I want to get everyone to think about what are some brands or companies that identify with these colors. I'll give you guys a moment to answer, and then I'll show you a good example of how it's used for an online campaign.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess one good example would be McDonald's. McDonald's would be a really good example just because it uses yellow and red, as well as Walmart. It uses blue, I guess, and that each has its own purpose. So if you're thinking of McDonald's, the red shows the energy. When you walk in, you want that burger. So here you want to go to that in McDonald's and try that new burger, and so it has that, I guess, energy and passion, as well as yellows for the positivity and that cheerful atmosphere that it creates. And if majority of the places as well have it uses a lot of yellow and red, so it really creates that amazing cheerful and happy environment for its customers. And I feel like that's really the key here, the use of colors in terms of like the company like McDonald's.
Yeah, and I was gonna add one thing to it. Like a blue is often used for Facebook, so that we often see a lot. Like most of the Facebook logos and their tabs, they're often in blue and white. On top of that, purple is often used for Instagram. So I think it's more like one is used for just connecting with people. The other one is used for creative platforms or something like that. Youth for Change is red and blue too, which demonstrates power, energy, and it also demonstrates trust, security, smart, and confidence, and all these things in there too. So it's something to look at.
Yeah, definitely. Those are all great points and good examples of how color is used. So now we'll show a website or an online campaign of how it's actually used.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's a lot of red, white. There's a lot of colors that's striking at you, and I feel like red and yellow, red and white, it creates a really good striking combination for the people who are visiting this website. And I feel like the purpose of the website is to raise money for this, as you can see, sport relief funding. And I feel like the key is red, just because the very first thing that you do is that for example, donate button is in red and white. And so when you visit this website, your eyes automatically navigate to that aspect, and it's like you're essentially motivated or you're influenced to be part of this good cause, right? Is because of this color and the fact that it strikes you and it gets you to pay attention. It garners more attention towards you and your eyes, and it allows you to navigate the website with ease. And I feel like red does a really good job, as Cynthia said. It shows passion, love, and energy for a cause like this, and that also motivates the audience to support this cause further, as well as white shows security. And so it creates this feeling within the audience that if I were to join this cause, I'm being part of this amazing cause and supporting others by donating. And in that way, Canadian Tire is able to foster a really good target audience, is able to get a lot of support. And once again, it really emphasizes the use of color and how it's really important to to reach out to others and get them supporting of what you're trying to do.
Yep, that's awesome. I think that's a really good example. So, and now we are gonna continue with some great examples of the usage of color and branding. So, as mentioned, Facebook using blue really gives you a sense of dependability, intelligence, and I guess trust in the overall app, or like what they want to come across as. And some other good examples is the usage of orange. Usually it's in combination with yellow, and that really increases the audience's or the consumer's appetite when looking at those colors. And studies actually show that those colors can trigger a more or like an increase in serotonin in your body. So yeah, it's interesting to see how these brands or these companies can really take advantage of using these colors to improve their overall marketing or branding. So now we'll look at this video of a poster tutorial.
Hey, that was an amazing video. I learned a lot. We have a comment from Ramneet Grewal who says this is extremely helpful. I had no clue there was this much advantage behind using color psychology when designing for web. And I have a comment for Usma Irfan that says excellent, and from Anu Randhawa that says cool. That it almost seems like magical. So great work.
Yeah.
So let's see what's
He's
next.
very good. Yeah, so I think that this tutorial really demonstrates the usage of layout, imagery, color, and typography. And what I get from this, from looking at this poster itself, it's that it's very calming, very very laid back, and the text is easy to look at as well. All right.
And like one thing I find very interesting is how realistic it is, but not realistic at the same time. Like it's it's very simple, but at the same time you can see that the details in it, like for example the shadows, as well as like the fact that there's a the hole when you have like the part where you hold the cup. Like and so it really shows like the fine details, which once again, goes along with the message. But the fact that how it's really cool and it's conveyed through this software and it's very simple. So that's a really cool thing that that's pretty important to learn.
Exactly, like creating dimension even though it's a 2D image. Yeah. All right, and now let's talk about tools and resources. So the two most used or like most common design softwares for a graphic designer to use is Illustrator and Photoshop. And I know, Hunyah, you've been taking classes on design and you've had a little bit of experience or learned about these programs. Do you have any thoughts
Yes,
about using them?
I used the Adobe Photoshop. It took me a while to actually get a hang of using all the tools in there, like how to use the layers, how to use the different functions in there. It like it's easy to actually this is industry standard, so that's why I think everyone has your own duration of time of how long it takes them to get used to it. But it was interesting. Like I didn't like use it for too long, but there was a lot I learned in there in the short span of time. So yeah, they're really good.
And Megan, do you have any thoughts about that as well?
Yeah, I would say that there's definitely a really big learning curve there. I was definitely a person who was more Photoshop at the start before beginning my studying at BCIT, but I quickly realized that a lot of like the pen tool and just the brush tool and just using Photoshop informally, like self-taught kind of thing, so many things could have been just so much easier if I had looked at Illustrator at all. Um, yeah, I would definitely say that Illustrator is definitely the go-to for creating graphics and art and just vector images that you can apply to different softwares that you're using. So I definitely always have Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop open at the same time. Definitely can't do one without the other.
I agree.
I mean, like that, I find that really cool, right? Just like the differences between it, how it's easy to use Illustrator and Photoshop in some cases. I had a scenario, I mean, or a moment where I actually had to draw like in Photoshop where it was like a completely destroyed image with a lot of like, I guess, like mistakes happening on it. Like there, it was wrinkled. So we had to use the tools to kind of like fix it and make it look perfect. Like, and that was like a really cool thing that we had to do. When I had to learn Photoshop. So it really shows like the importance of each tool, the fact that you can make something that's completely destroyed into completely something like something that looks perfect, like a broken glass into that's like a glass that never broke in the first place. So it's really cool the way you can use all these softwares to create these kind of artworks.
Yes, exactly. So for Illustrator, I guess we'll kind of talk a bit about the software itself. Like Megan said, it's great for creating graphics, icons, logos, posters, patterns, etc. And it also offers the option to connect to a drawing tablet. So if you like to draw, compared to using like a mouse or your trackpad, this is great. Photoshop is great for editing images, masking, if you need to blend or overlay certain patterns, over effects, and the brush tools, as Megan also mentioned, that they are very frequently used for any design consisting of painting or effects like that. And for those who are just starting out in design or don't want to commit to an Adobe subscription, there are free alternatives to those programs, such as Vector, Gravit Designer, and Figma. So they are not industry standard, but they're still good programs to start using or good for basic use. Figma has recently become part of some I guess, workflow of the companies just because it's so good for prototyping. So if you're thinking about doing wireframes and prototypes, that would be a good program to use. Also, there are a lot of resources that offer free images online. So there's high quality images for commercial use that you could use without having to provide attribution. So those websites include Unsplash, Pexels, Pixabay. And of course, if you want to look at more tutorials, YouTube is a great place to visit for that. So now we'll look at another video just going over the basic tools of Illustrator.
My name's Julian, and today I'm going to be teaching you the basics of Adobe Illustrator in 5 minutes. I'm going to go through this pretty fast, so you may have to pause the video, but I'm going to try to get through everything as quickly as possible. So once you have Illustrator open, you can hit Command N to create a new document. Otherwise, you can hit Command or Control S to save a document, Command Shift S to save as, or Command O to open a new document. Once you're in a document, you can also hold spacebar, click and drag to pan around. You can also hit Control minus to zoom out and Control plus to zoom back in. One of the most common tools in Illustrator is your layers panel. So you have all the tools on your right hand side, which are sort of most frequently used tools and functions. You can click on the two little squares that will open your layers panel. You can hide and show layers. You can lock and unlock layers. Layers act just like any other program, so a layer on top will show those objects on top of other objects and vice versa. One of the most common tools in Illustrator is the rectangle tool. You can hit M on your keyboard to bring it up, or you can click and hold on the rectangle and it'll bring up all these sub-tools. So if I just click and drag, I can draw a rectangle like so. I can also see the toolbar on the top change once I've made this rectangle. So I can change the fill and stroke and all the other settings about this rectangle. If I want to move around or transform this rectangle, I can just hit V on my keyboard to go to the selection tool. From here, I can grab the corners of it, I can scale it, I can do whatever I want. If I want to scale it uniformly, I can hold Shift and click and drag the corner and it will keep the same size. Otherwise, I can hold Alt and then it'll scale it sort of from two axes at the same time. It will basically mirror whatever I'm doing. Another great tool is the Star tool. So if you click and hold on the rectangle tool, we can go down to the Star tool. I can click and drag to create a star, and I can also press the up and down arrow keys on my keyboard to decrease or increase the amount of points that star has. This is a really quick and easy way to make a triangle inside of Illustrator. If I want to manipulate any specific point of this triangle, I won't be able to use the selection tool. I'll have to use the direct selection tool. So you can just hit A on your keyboard to go to the direct selection tool, and I can click on any one of the specific points of this triangle and edit them individually. This is how you basically access and change any sort of point in Illustrator, whether it's a shape or a pen tool line or any sort of object. You can also direct select multiple points using the lasso tool. So you can hit Q on your keyboard to go to this tool, and then I can basically draw a little circle around any sort of points I'd like to select, and I can also select multiple points, and then I can just go back to my direct selection tool, hitting A, and then I can move these points individually. If you have any sort of shape or pen tool path in Illustrator, you can customize this in any way. So once I'm in the pen tool, if I hit P, I can also hit plus to add any anchor point to a line. I can also hit minus to remove an anchor point, so I can click on this anchor point right there and I'll remove it, or I can hit back to plus and it'll create a new one. The pen tool is another common tool in Illustrator, so if I just delete this, I can hit P to go back to my pen tool. I can click anywhere in the document and it'll create a point. I can click again and it'll create a linear line between those 2 points, or I can click and drag and it'll create a curved point. I can then hit Alt on the end of any point to get rid of that continued curvature and to make a sharp point. This is really great for creating any sort of custom shapes or lines inside of Illustrator. I can then go back to V to my move tool, and then I can select and drag any one of these points. I can also go back to my direct selection tool and then manipulate these points individually like I showed before. Another great variation of the pen tool is the curvature tool. So you'll see this just next to your pen tool. Otherwise you can hit shift, and then I think it's a little squiggly key. This is a custom sort of command because this is a new tool, but it acts very similar to pen tool. You can basically click in multiple points and it will carry on the curvature. I can also hit Alt on a point to make it basically a sharp point and get rid of the curvature. If you want to create text inside of Illustrator, you can just hit T to go to the type tool, and then you can just click anywhere and begin typing. If I click and hold on the type tool on the left hand toolbar, you can see there's an array of different type tools. You can actually type along paths or inside of areas. It's really easy to use and it's a great tool. Another great tool is the brush tool. You can just hit B on your keyboard to access this tool. You can also hit the bracket keys on your keyboard to decrease or increase the size of your brush. Great thing about the Illustrator brush tool is it basically smooths out all of your brush strokes, so it's really great for creating sort of custom typography or any sorts of lettering or shapes. Something that's really handy in Illustrator is the eyedropper tool. So if I just create a little shape here and give it some custom properties like a custom color and stroke, and then if I create another shape and then change those color properties to something different, what I can do is, whilst having one of these items selected, I can hit I to go to the eyedropper tool, and then I can click on any other object in Illustrator and it will match those color settings and any sort of appearance settings that object has. The shape builder tool is an amazing tool for creating custom shapes or even logo designs. So I can drag these two triangles together and then hit Shift M to go to the shape builder tool, and you can see it will basically highlight the shapes. You can basically select one or more shapes and then hit the key, and you can basically create custom shapes from the overlapping paths of these. You can also get rid of certain parts. So if I hold Alt and then click on the middle section here, I've actually deleted that part, or I can hit Shift to create a new part. And then we can basically click on any sorts of the parts, and then you can just hit Escape, and it'll create custom shapes based on those overlapping positions. So that's basically it. Those are the core fundamental settings of Illustrator. Obviously there's way more to Illustrator. It's almost impossible to do any sort of video in 5 minutes for Illustrator, but I thought I'd give it a go. And the tools and settings that I've gone through in this video are basically the ones that I use the most. You'll be surprised on how much you could create.
All right, so I just want to give a recap of the video. Basically, the key components of a design program consist of artboards where you can layer items on top of each other and create a design. And all the items have anchor points that you could change the placement of, except for images that you link or embed into the artboard. And also one of the things I've learned in school is all the different shortcut commands that could really save you time and just help you have an overall faster workflow. So Megan, I want to know if you have any tips for those who want to experiment with design software such as Illustrator, or maybe some things that you wish you had known in the beginning.
Definitely. So I'm fairly new to graphic design, but I have been working with digital art for a number of years prior to formally beginning my studies in this field. So I'm familiar with the feeling of losing hours of work to the dreaded rainbow spinning cursor for anyone who's using Apple out there. So a great way to combat this loss of work would be to access your save settings in your Adobe Acrobat and turn on autosave. This is a great function because even the most experienced designer can just get lost in their work and just forget to save. Yeah, so having the machine do it for you is just a no-brainer. Another major tip is to take any design criticism that you can get. It can be tough in the beginning if you're not accustomed to getting any design critique, just because it can often cause you to fall into the hole of taking it as a personal attack as opposed to genuinely being a helpful tip towards bettering your work.
Just a bit curious, you know, since you're like, you're really good at using these softwares, are there any like projects that or designs that you're working on where, you use these kind of tools and you realize like, oh, you midway, you realize, oh, there's another tool that I can use to, do the same thing, but it's much more efficient.
Yeah, sometimes I'll be working in Photoshop, or I'll suddenly have to create another visual asset. In the beginning, I had a lot of these type of run-ins where I was creating something on Photoshop and I would realize, oh, I need to create something visual for this area where I'm creating, for example, a wireframe or a prototype. And before, I wouldn't realize that you could actually just create your assets all on Illustrators at the same time. And I'd start trying to use the pen tool on Photoshop. And obviously, I mean, you can still do it, but obviously it's not as easy just because Photoshop isn't always the best for working with vectors that I know of at the moment. So now I know that I can just be using Adobe Illustrator just on the side, just at the same time, just creating my visual assets on one side and just saving them into a folder and accessing those just from Photoshop just as I go.
I have something to add. When I use the Adobe Photoshop, I use a lasso tool a lot. So the lasso tool, like, it took me a while to get used to it. But then there was, I think, a few other ones where you could just copy and paste the image. Like it was one of the ones. There was also the granite tool, so I used that one a lot. So those ones, the one that I use. But like what I figured out is like I agree with you. Like you always need the Adobe Shop with the Illustrator or Illustrator with the Photoshop. It's essential all the time. You can't just be working with one. So I agree with you on that.
It's definitely very useful. Another thing I will say that before when I was self-teaching myself Photoshop, I would use the lasso tool and the magnet tool, and especially the magic wand tool, that one for removing an image from another image so just to make it transparent, just to remove the background, for example. But a lot of the times when you zoom in, you realize that it creates a little bit of a rough edge. And even if you feather the edge a little bit, you can tell that it's removed like that. Because since the lasso tool, you don't get a lot of freedom with the way that your cursor moves just because you're using your mouse or your trackpad with it. And with the magnet tool, it's a very robotic type of selection tool. So there's a lot of rough edges that just wouldn't look as natural as if you were, for example, using the pen tool. I use the pen tool now for anything that I'm masking or taking the background out, just because it's a lot more of a free tool to use when you're going around curves. It's a lot more natural looking because you can actually mimic the real life images with the curves and the points.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, just another question, just a bit curious once again. What drives you like in this field? Or what got you interested like to, get into this like graphic design in the first place? Just a bit curious on that.
Yeah, so in the beginning, I was definitely just into art. I've kind of been into traditional forms of art, like watercolor drawing, just acrylic painting, and that kind of stuff, just since I was younger. And I gradually moved towards digital art. I used a Wacom tablet for a while, and I used Photoshop with that as well. And I actually went into like chemistry, just I'm not sure why, because I was an artistic person. I was like, let me just do chemistry, let me do a science. And obviously that didn't work out too well. So I was just very uninterested. So I found a career option where I could express creativity and just how I like to be artistic while also pursuing a professional path. So graphic design and designing. Thanks for
That's cool.
asking.
That's cool.
Great. Thanks for your input, everybody. And okay, now we're going to talk about digital marketing and how graphic design and marketing actually work together. So one of the key components to marketing is branding. The first impressions are everything, and you really want to make sure to build your own identity. So it's important to have a distinguished tone, style, and identity to differentiate yourself from your competitors. The logo is the face of the company and is basically the first thing that potential customers would notice about the business. A well-designed logo shows that your business is trustworthy, professional, and provides high-quality services. As we mentioned earlier, color can be very effective in conveying experiences, reactions, and feelings. Colors are very important because it's where first impressions of the customers are based. Choosing a certain color scheme can really make or break your business. And images act as storytellers. So your audience will read the images and make a decision of whether or not they want to continue exploring in a split second. When used cleverly, images can help drive more traffic to your site and encourage brand interaction and social shares. So now let's look at the Apple logo. So why do you think they changed this logo?
I think it's because first it looks more like like a kind of like an image that you can't tell clearly if it's Apple or not, starting from 1976. And the one from 2001, we see it becomes minimalistic, and from 2017, it's become a very simple logo of the apple, where you see a bite of the apple as well. So I think that's how it evolved over the years, and it's changed from like black to silver to really like metallic kind of silver tone in there.
Yeah, so like fun fact, Steve Jobs wanted the logo and the name to basically fuse as one thing. The original image you can't really tell because it's very complicated, and it's actually depicting Newton, and guess like that's kind of where they were trying to draw Apple from. And so with the bite of the apple, Steve Jobs actually wanted to include that bite because he wanted to differentiate it from looking from like an apple and a cherry. So that's why the bite is included. And there's like a little play on words of byte and gigabytes. So that's a little fun fact about that. And he also wanted to keep changing the logo through the years to just show how the company is evolving.
Well, this is another question. Just like, do you know why from like 1977 to 1998 the color changes? Like, in the 1977, it's like all the colors in the world, but then like,
He wanted to represent inclusivity, so like he wanted to show that for that year, and then I guess he decided eventually that he wanted it to be more minimalistic.
oh, okay.
I have a comment.
Yes, it's from Gulnaz Rehan. She says it's very true about the branding, and Anuradhava says interesting facts about the evolution of the Apple logo. So I think that was really interesting. I think not many of us are aware that how the Apple logo is what it is today.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and let's talk about email marketing. So the design in email marketing actually allows readers to navigate the content as the writer intended. So great email marketing and great email design captures the reader's attention and entices them to keep reading once they open the email. So that means it has a simple and easy to read layout with elements such as images or GIFs and a call to action. And for SEO, you want to make sure that the images your site are using aren't too big, as it will make your website load slowly and negatively impact the search engine results page rankings. Also, you want to be sure to use a keyword in the alt text section of the image. So you want to name your images or your files correctly so that it helps your website's SEO.
Just to add on, if you look at the Youth for Change website, the logo is actually very small, but it's pretty evident, so it's easy to see it. And it's very, some of the things that is arranged, for example, the nav bar as well as the images is clearly organized and it's well structured. And you can really see it's a very good example, to show some of the things that we've been discussing. So if you have time, please feel free to check that out too.
Yeah, so a good example of the SEO that we use for Youth for Change is that if you search for Youth for Change on the Google Images page, you'll see the logo. So that's a good sign that everything was named properly. So let's go over how to start your career in design. Well, first you want to consider maybe taking a graphic design course. So there are a variety of graphic design courses that could be found on websites such as Udemy, Skillshare, and Lynda. And the courses that are offered can be tailored to your interests. So for example, if you're really interested in video game design, you would be able to find courses on that specifically. You want to seek out freelance work. So freelancing is a good way to start building your portfolio and client base. Upwork and Fiverr are some good examples of platforms that can connect the designers to businesses in need of their services. And you can also build an online portfolio. So you can maintain a portfolio on websites such as Dribbble and Behance, and those can help attract new clients. They also allow graphic designers to showcase their work serve as inspiration for other designers and also get feedback from other people as well. Another thing you can do is create your own website. So having a strong personal website will pay off in attracting new clients and businesses. You should also include your resume for convenient access. You can also stay up to date. So do your research on other designers and stay up to date on trends. You can watch videos on YouTube that update pretty regularly of the design trends of 2021, for example. And if you have money to put aside for tuition, it would be a good idea to get a degree or diploma, as many colleges and institutions offer practical training in their design programs. And having a school to back you up can really help in terms of getting support from your peers and instructors. Just some closing thoughts on graphic design. Personally, I get a feeling of accomplishment, and I'm proud of my work and having it displayed and showcased, because it really is that feeling that drives me forward as a designer. And I guess the thing that you always want to remember is to never stop pushing yourself and being creative, because when I look back at my previous work, I'm always shocked at how I've improved on it since then. And you just want to keep upgrading and try new things out. And maybe you discover that you have your own style in design, but you don't ever want to, I guess, box yourself in, because that will ultimately limit your creativity.
I have
just want to ask Megan. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that speaking of a graphic design course, the course I recently did was from artists and artisan women digital enterprise network. Like, they have a 6 months course that open to any person with minimum or less experience. And also on top of that, Dribble and Behance, they're one of the best sites to go for graphic designers, right? And I've been told that that it's like a LinkedIn for graphic designers. So I want to know more about that.
Yeah, so Behance, Dribble, they're great, especially if you don't have your own website already. It's a great place to just upload your work and showcase it for other people. And personally, I always look at those websites for inspiration if I'm starting a new project. So I want to just see how everyone is like their version or their take on this particular design.
We got a comment from Ramneet Grewal. She says, "That's true. Practice makes perfect." So it looks like you've been doing great. So that's good. Just keep it up.
Sounds good. All right. So I just want to ask Megan if she has anything to add.
Yeah, so something super important that I recently learned was the designer curve. I think many designers, including myself, face something called the imposter syndrome, where you find it difficult to believe that you're as competent at a skill than that you actually are. So it's often due to the development of our design sense in comparison to our actual design skill. At times, our taste in design soars higher than our skills to actually have time to develop. So this actually means that you're just continuously improving. So don't lose hope, because I know the imposter syndrome can really get us at times, but learning this definitely gave me some peace of mind. So I hope it helps you as well.
We have a comment from Gulnaz Rihan that says, "Behance is best for portfolio on the online portfolio conversation." So it looks like a lot of people are beginning to think about this. So that's great.
All right. Thank you for your input, everyone. And now we'd just like to wrap up the session and leave some time for any questions. So if you have any thoughts or comments about our session, feel free to add it in the chat.
Well, I can go first. This is to Megan. Megan, just a question. So you said that, like, showing your own portfolio, and that would be really good on your resume. But do you think there might be any certifications of like things that in digital design in that field that you can do in order to show your resume, other than like your personal website and your portfolio on the side?
I definitely think that you could go around and offer your work for just like as volunteer work. For example, if you were, I was actually thinking about this for a while, but I did work at a coffee shop, and you could if you're looking to grow your career path, you could ask that company if they needed any graphics or any newsletter, just like wireframes and just like little things that you could see that they might be able to have something to improve on. Just offer your work for free, even if it feels like you're working for free and you're not used to that. You can definitely take the work that you use from creating those things for them onto your portfolio. You can also just kind of start to get your name out there and make new connections, especially on LinkedIn as well, talking to a lot of people, finding a lot of little businesses on, especially on Instagram. With the pandemic happening, there were a lot, like a huge soar in just like small businesses opening up online. So a lot of them actually need a graphic designer, and they might not even realize that at the moment. So if you go and reach out to them and just meet more people, it's definitely super helpful for your career path.
I have a comment to add. I agree. The pandemic is actually one of the best times we have right now for graphic designers. As companies, we don't know how long they're going to be in the market, right? So it's a good idea to reach out to companies and see if they need a new logo, see if they need to change their logo again. So I agree. Plus, on top of that, I think like it's a good time to utilize your time in graphic designing, because I think like there's so much accessible support for youth to pursue a career in graphic design that hopefully we'll all be able to master graphic designing. So I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add to that, there's also some really great communities that have a big circle of different designers with different levels of expertise or different levels of experience that you could definitely join. Usually you can find them on LinkedIn. If you want to, or if you're interested in joining, you could let me know. I could always provide you with a link or like a way to get into the group, I guess. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out and ask me, or talk to Megan, or message us at Youth for Change. And yeah, reach out on our social media. So awesome. Thank you all so much. So we really appreciate the time that you have taken out to come and join us this evening, and we really hope that this session was informative to you all. Please stay connected to Youth for Change using our social media, and make sure that you like and subscribe. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, as well as our YouTube channel, where we will be posting this recorded session tomorrow. If you would like to be a part of the Youth for Change or Youth Empowerment Series and come on the show with us, then make sure you fill out the event registration form on youthforchange.ca/get involved. We would love to get your feedback on the session and ideas for future Youth for Change sessions in the upcoming week. And to briefly introduce our next session, I'll pass it over to Hunyah to give an introduction for next Wednesday.
Thank you to my co-host Cynthia for an amazing session on graphic design. There was so much I didn't know. For next week's session, we'll be having a session on mental health, as Dr. Monty Ghosh will be speaking about mental health and different aspects about mental health and addictions and everything in there. If you have any questions, please send your questions to Youth for Change. We're looking forward to hearing from you, and we hope to see you next week. And follow Youth for Change on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as YouTube. Thank you.
Yeah, we want to thank you for joining us, and we'd love to see you all again next week. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye.